Monster Hunter Wilds is one of the few games I actually was excited for this year. And so far, the shaky performance aside, I'm still having a blast playing it. But after I've already sunk around 300 hours into it, I noticed something that I haven't seen mentioned yet, and I feel like many people are playing the game in not the most fun way imaginable. As you may or may not know, Monster Hunter Wilds followed closely in Monster Hunter World's footsteps, continuing and improving upon its design and gameplay. Monster Hunter World, for the first time in the series, gave us big interconnected maps without loading screens between the areas. It also brought in expeditions, allowing players to roam these maps without a quest active to gather resources or just hunt random monsters on the map. However, when hunting these monsters, you would inevitably miss out on the quest rewards you would have gotten had you just posted a quest for that monster, making this way of hunting significantly less rewarding. So unless players were doing something that specifically required them to be on an expedition, there was almost no reason to do it. It was much more efficient to just post a quest for a specific monster from the hub zone. This changed a little when Iceborne was released, because it introduced the Guiding Lands, a new map with zones representing all the previous maps and a big pool of monsters roaming around. When going on an expedition to the Guiding Lands, players could still hunt whichever monsters they came across, but they were actually able to now get rewards for their hunts by reporting their progress to the handler afterwards. This now gave them the option to remain in the expedition for as long as they wanted and just hunt whatever they came across. If players were looking for a specific monster, they could also just use lures and get specific monsters to spawn in. But no, back to Monster Hunter Wilds. It did away with a big hub zone for posting quests in favor of a base camp on each of the maps, with smaller base camps all over the area. This also means that the players are basically always in expedition mode, as long as they remain in a certain zone. However, when attacking a roaming monster on the map in this game, the player will automatically start a quest to hunt that particular monster, and at the end of the quest they get the full quest rewards and remain right where they were when they finished the quest. Therefore, they can basically hunt monsters on that map indefinitely and without pause. Well, at least until the spawns run dry for a while. I am completely convinced that this is how the game was meant to be played primarily. Enter a map, stumble across some monsters or pick a specific one on the map and start the quest by engaging that monster. But because Monster Hunter has always been based around doing a single hunt at a time and has lots of remnants from its older titles, the system of just picking a quest from a list and starting it from a hub area is also still in the game. From what I can tell, this system mostly services optional quests, arena quests and event quests, because all of these can't just occur naturally on expeditions. So it makes sense for these types of quests to still use the system. But then there are also investigations. These can be created by picking a certain monster that is currently on one of the maps and basically saving a quest for it for later. They can then be started just like any other quest or started right from the map screen. However, and this is the point that I think is the big issue, this directly leads to players no longer just hunting monsters on the maps while in expedition mode. What most players do instead is look at all the maps, pick interesting quests for specific monsters, create investigations for those monsters and then rest to get new monsters to spawn in and repeat. And unfortunately, this is the most efficient and optimal way to progress through the game. But at least to me, it's also the least fun way. Most players see no value in hunting a monster that doesn't give them any materials they aren't specifically looking for. As a result, I've seen a lot of complaints from people calling for more variety, who were just repeatedly farming the same few monsters over and over again because they give the best rewards. And I can't really blame them. After they got what they wanted though, they then said that the game had not enough content and just stopped playing until the next update. To be fair, this was mostly a complaint towards the endgame RD and weapon system, where there was almost no reason to craft anything besides them, because most of the monster weapons were just worse. Therefore, most people didn't even bother with anything but the Ardean weapons. And that is a fair complaint. However, I would not consider saying there is nothing to do in the game until I have crafted all weapons, armors, and charms. But that's a bit beside the point. That's just me. Now we just got the release of 9-star monsters, and with it a new system for random charms. And once again the situation is the same. People complain that they have to farm the same few monsters to get these new charms, while these hunts also no longer give some of the items they could get from their respective 8-star versions before, which a lot of people still need, including me. And to an extent that is also valid criticism. I also think that a bigger part of the roster of monsters should be at least somewhat relevant towards the end game, and some quest rewards could probably do with a rebalance. But I also feel like a lot of people are getting burned out and frustrated because of the way they play the game. Repeatedly spamming the same quests over and over again gets boring and stale real quick. Do I have a solution to that problem? Not really. The game is set up to really favor that style of play. But I can tell you how I have managed to not get completely burned out so far. Before I hit high rank, I roamed around all the maps hunting whatever monsters I would come across, until I had gathered all the low rank materials I would ever need to create all the weapons in the low rank weapon tree. And I mean all of them. Only then did I proceed to high rank, where I have continued to basically do the same. I take my time and just walk around the maps, looking for monsters to hunt, and if it's a monster I actually need materials from, great. If not, no big deal, more fuel to create more armor spheres later. I will probably continue to do this until I have crafted all layered armors, as well as weapons and charms. Does this take significantly longer to get specific materials, Ardean weapons, or the new charms? Hell yeah, absolutely. But it lets me fight almost all monsters and gather their materials without the need to sit in menus and constantly refresh maps until I find a hunt that is worth doing. And that alone seems like a more fun playstyle to me. It also gives me ample opportunities to try out different weapons and playstyles with different tiers of monsters. There are a few things that could still make it more fun though. For example, if the tracking system for Monster Hunter World had made a return. Having to track a monster across the map is way more engaging than just looking at the map and having a sacred auto-run to the monster. Investigations could also only be savable after having successfully hunted that monster. I think these two changes alone would force players to spend more time on the maps, exploring and hunting, rather than sitting at menus looking for the hunts with the best rewards. Of course, I'm not a game developer, and I'm sure most people would still find a way to optimize their hunts so they can spend less time playing the game they apparently like. But who knows? Right now, I feel like the developers of Monster Hunter Wilds tried to get the players to play in a way similar to how I have been playing so far, but also couldn't fully commit to that. And as a result, there is a really fun way to play the game, which almost no one is using, because there is a more efficient and quicker way. But what do you think? Do you only go for the highest rewards? Or do you hunt whatever comes up while you are exploring? Please let me know. But that is all from me for now. I hope you have a great day, and happy hunting.